it says, my husband didn't want to hire a contractor. He didn't want to waste that money. So he went out and he bought a saw and bought this and bought this. And what would have cost $500 ended up costing us $1,500
Yes.
because all the stuff he did, your time and the stress that it adds on top of it. It's like, how much more did that really cost you?
What goes in tandem with this is the rise of YouTube the last 20 years, the DIY for rebuilding your house, doing your plumbing, rebuilding your car, XYZ, rebuilding your marriage, whatever it may be. We have a hard time spending money on expertise.
You're listening to Everyone's Talking Money, the show that's all about making life richer. Whether you're here to crush debt, build wealth, or finally feel in control of your cash, you are in the right place. Okay, so Dylan, you were telling me about this new segment that you saw the other day, and it was all about Recession Core. And Recession Core first started out as like a fashion trend in the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But what were you learning that Recession Core is today?
Yeah, I think Recession Core was like a marketing idea for clothing. You know, we were in a recession late 90s, and there's a bigger conversation now that we might be going into recession again, which is also a question we've had for probably 8-9 years. Right?
I was going to say, like, that's always a thing. Like, it's always lingering back there. It always is the headline, every so often. We're going
every
into a
client
recession.
Will come and ask me every 3 months, be like, is this an indicator? Is this happening? Well, I think regardless if it's going to happen, I think with Recession Core, the article I read was saying like, hey, how do you prepare for it? We talk about disaster preparedness and prepared for a baby or buying a home. But one thing is like an economic downturn. How can you prepare for it? And the article that I read was basically saying like, hey, where do you spend your money? And for us, a lot of times it's buying on Amazon, it's buying fast fashion, it's spending money in places that are just quick and easy. But the article said like, listen, let's give some attention to spending in a way that is maybe longer lasting and also reusable. So the article talked about saying like, hey, what about spaces where instead of just buying what you need, but you can share it? So the article talked about a tool library, which is a very cool concept that's spreading across the country. And the tool library is basically like, you need a saw, you need to use a drill, you need to use all these different objects to take care of your home. Instead of going to Home Depot, dropping $170 on a drill, dropping $15 on the saw or the bits. There are a lot of libraries that are opening to the public saying like, you can borrow these things. You can borrow a lawnmower. You can borrow XYZ because this is something you're probably going to use once or twice a year. Hopefully not once or twice a day. Your house is in good space and good health. And so that you can just borrow it. And so that you can say, oh, instead of me dropping over the course of a year, $1,500 or $2,000 for all of the tools I need for my home, you can simply go to a library and be able to pick up these places. And that's not just tools, but it's also experiences. You can say you're going to the beach and you need to have a tent, you need to have XYZ, or you're going camping. Those are things you might do once or twice a year that will last a long time so that can be shared with a lot of folks. So that is something that's getting popped up, and I hope it expands as well, because I see a lot of clients having experiences and then they just drop a ton of money for one thing once a year.
Well, like there's like the reel or whatever it is of a woman like videoing her husband, and he's doing this work on the house, and it says, my husband didn't want to hire a contractor to fix XYZ. He didn't want to waste that money. So he went out and he bought a saw and bought this and bought this. And what would have cost us, $500 ended up costing us $1,500 because all the stuff he did because he didn't want to waste money on a contractor. Everyone is guilty of that, I feel like. It's like, oh no, I'm not going to pay that. I'll just do it myself. And then you have to buy all the supplies and do all the things. And it's like, and then even just your time and the stress that it adds on top of it. It's like, how much more did that really cost you?
Yeah. And I think, what goes in tandem with this is the rise of YouTube the last 20 years, the DIY for rebuilding your house, doing your plumbing, rebuilding your car, XYZ, rebuilding your marriage, whatever it may be. And a lot of those things you can do, but it's also like you are shopping. Like we think a lot of times when we buy things, it's like, oh, I'm solving the problem. Right? I buy a thing, it solves a problem. We're throwing money to solve the problem. We have a hard time spending money on expertise. That is not
Yeah.
something we trust other people to do. So definitely saying like, okay, you can still try it. I think there's a lot of great things you can do. I DIY'd a lot of my house, but at the same time, I didn't want to spend several $1,000s trying it so that if I did not be able to do it, I'm buying all these tools, spending all the time. Plus now I'm getting the plumber to come in and fix it on top of that.
I just want to go back to the recession real quick because you said it when you talk to clients. Are we going into a recession? Are we in a recession? And I hate to break it to everyone. We don't realize we are in a recession until like we're out of it, until
Yeah,
it's over,
too late.
or until like we're on the tail end of it, because a recession is a significant decline in economic activity. So we're not spending money. And those reports don't come out until the month's over
Yeah.
or the quarter's over. So it's looking in the rear view mirror
Hmm.
of, yeah, economic activity was down. Yes, those were recession type numbers. So we could say we don't know we're in a recession until like after the fact.
Yeah.
So I would also say, like, let's not freak out about the R word. Like, it's okay because you need to do what's best for you. You may be in your own personal recession because your
Yeah.
job is down, you're not making as much money, or you lost your job, or your expenses are really high for this period of time. So don't worry about like the country as a whole. Worry more about yourself and if
Yeah.
you're in a recession.
Yeah, and it's thinking because that recession narrative, the recession core came out in 1999 when we had the tech boom and the bubble popped, and then we have a recession in 2008, 2009, right? It's been a while. There's a lot of people who are listening to this podcast who are walking around who have not experienced a recession. So there's this boogeyman mentality to it, absolutely. And I love personal recession because that is the driver to say, like, yes, there's going to be lots of things happening globally, maybe, but how you are affected, there's people who have seen the stock market go up, up, up for years. But also, I just read an article that like long term unemployment is hitting people with college degrees. That is happening at the same time as the stock market going up. Those people are in a personal recession. So, yeah, I think having personal plans, just like disaster plans, so that when you are in that personal recession is key so that you don't freak out, you don't stress out, you don't add emotion to your decision making when income changes, when your needs change financially.
And I think building some habits in to your life, like you said, you instead of going out and buying the saw, buying the drill, buying whatever you need for your DIY, borrowing it from your neighbor, or the library thing like you mentioned, like that, those are, and I think, you know, years ago, we may have said like, "Oh my gosh, you're so cheap," or "You're frugal," and said like it's a bad thing. Just go buy the saw. Go buy. It's
Yeah.
fine. Like, or why are you going to borrow it? And I think like the frugal stuff is now is in vogue. Like it's popular and it's normal because I think everyone's just tired of spending all of this money on stuff, and social media is helping in that like we're becoming a little bit more vocal, but also social media is helping in that we have the buy nothing pages or the
Yeah.
Facebook pages that say, "Hey, can I borrow? I don't need a ladder that, puts me up 25 feet. I just need to change a light bulb once every 3 years.
Yeah.
Why do I need to
Yeah.
buy this ladder?"
Yeah.
So I think social media is helping a lot of that, like removing the stigma of frugality.
Yeah, when we got our home, we lived in a great neighborhood that had a very robust buy nothing group. And my wife actually wrote a zine about it, how much it changed her relationship with the community because she knew 50, 60 people, some of them in person, but some of them just through just asking, what are your needs? What are you helping? And it's not only that it makes it so that you don't have to keep a ladder in your house, because when you're in your 30s and 40s, you start accumulating stuff and you're like, I don't have room for things. And it's like, I have to say no to things. That's great. But it also is a great way, just with the tool library and other things like that, to build community, to be able to say, like, I know the people who are in my space because social media is so funny because you can watch kids in the Philippines dancing. That's amazing. But you also, in this narrative, also say, like, I know this neighbor who's 2 blocks down named Timothy or Joan or whatever. And I wouldn't know that without if I didn't know what their needs were, that they needed that ladder. And I know that in a year, I can give them that ladder again. And it feels great. And it saves you money because money is finite. When we say just go buy it, someone tells you that, they don't know what's in your bank account. They don't know that you're saving for a home. They don't know that you might have to support a parent one day. So that kind of advice is always like just the easy way out. It's just a $15 saw, but it's not because when do you say no then? If you're saying yes to everything, it's hard to say no.
Right, it's the $15 saw, and then you have to store it, and then where are you gonna put it? And you always have to move it in order to because it's always in front of this other thing that you need twice
Yeah.
a year, and then when you do move, and I've moved quite a few times in my adult life, it's like, how much have I paid to just move my
Oh my
stuff from place
gosh.
to place to
Yes.
place, you know?
Yes.
And then it's like a reminder of all the stuff you have and what you don't use and what you don't need, and it's and I think that it just weighs on you. So it's like not even the cost of the actual item, it's the cost of like the drama that it brings into your life as well.
Yeah.
And I think by like incorporating some of these like yeah, being frugal about stuff, being cheap about stuff and borrowing and asking for to use stuff and all and giving your stuff away when you no longer need it.
Hmm.
If things happen and a personal recession for you happens, it almost makes that transition into the personal recession a lot
Yes.
easier.
Yes. See, this is a conundrum I have with clients because I want people to have that narrative all the time and be like, you should be yourself, regardless of what's happening in the world or what your work is. And some people, everybody, when I talk about an emergency fund, I'll say to them, it's like, they'll say, well, if I lose my job, I'm going to cut back on dinners. I'm going to do XYZ. But reality, what I see is when people do lose their jobs or they have a big financial hit, it's like you're kind of the same person. Even though you don't have that job, you still like going to concerts. You still like going to the beach. You still like getting dinner out. So it's really hard to change that. And on top of it, you've lost your job and you feel terrible. So on top of it, we're saying, hey, you lost your job, but also you can't do anything fun anymore. Ugh, that's really hard. And so I don't want to put people in that mindset. You have to have a protocol exactly when that happens. So I want it to be like you get used to this thing. You get used to like this is in my belief system. So I'm a big fan of being able to say like, okay, make those transitions, make the transition to say like, let's be frugal. Because the other side of it is that one person has to do is like, well, if I'm not buying the saw, what am I doing with that money? So it is a question to your listeners to say like, yes, if you're being frugal, spend equal time thinking you get to save that money. It doesn't go away. Congrats. You get to hold on to it. What do you want to do with it? What is the purpose of that money? So you feel even better about borrowing those things. You feel better about not having to use the charge card to get XYZ because you have the money going somewhere else that's more important than the saw you use once a quarter or a year.
Yeah, and that when I'm talking with my clients and I'm or even on the show and I'll talk about needs and we're just so ingrained in thinking, well, our needs are what we need for basic survival. So then if we lose our job or something happens, we just only need what we need. Like we only
Yeah.
need that. But and it's for some reason I think that it's ingrained in us to well when something bad like that happens, like you lose a job, you have to go down to nothing. You have to
Hmm.
scrimp and scrape and eat ramen every night. Like that's
Hmm.
just what you have to do because you no longer have income coming in. But if you're honest with yourself and say, "No, my needs I also have needs of XYZ," and it's not frivolous because that's life. Why
Yeah.
why should I feel terrible about this? Like let's remove all of the guilt and the stigma, but why should I be terrible about getting my hair cuts or all of
Yeah.
that? It's like, wait, so now I lost my job. I have to, have my roots grow out. I can't get so I have to look like a mess on top of it. I mean, it just adds insult to injury where if
Exactly.
we're honest with ourselves and we plan accordingly, yeah, of course, we're still gonna tighten up a little bit, but there are still basic needs, and we're just acknowledging them and preparing for them.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, I think that is the takeaway of recession core is being like personal recession core is how it should be described to say like, okay, look at what's around you right now and what you can say no to that would be better for you, would be healthier for you so that whatever does happen, you still get to go get your hair cut. You still get to experience life and you will get another job. This thing will pass and you'll still be in a healthy place when you exit it. You won't be exhausted and burned out because that's a roller coaster. And I have experience working with creatives who I write for a TV show for 13 weeks. Congratulations, you get all this money, but then it's quiet for 6 months. And that's exhausting. It's a roller coaster. And so a lot of people who are outside of the creative fields are hitting that now with just employment is not what it was 20, 30, 40 years ago.
What would you say what are some of your recession core things that you do right now?
I'm proud of these because I think that they're hard a little bit, but nothing that's too extreme. Because I think about this whenever I internalize this for myself when I take actions. It's like, how sustainable are these actions? It's very easy at the beginning of the year to be like, okay, New Year's resolutions, I'm going to do this, this, this. And we all know that by February, things fall apart. So I really think of if you can do it, great. So don't set the bar too high because it just burns us out. For me, the big thing the last year has been alcohol. And the thing of like nothing like going out. I have two kids. I don't go out anymore to drink, but I would get a glass of wine or a bottle of wine when you go grocery shopping. And it's very easy. It's very like have a glass at dinner, but also two things. I'm getting older. Drinking alcohol affects my body differently than it did at 21. Absolutely. The second part, I would think about how many bottles is that in a month? Maybe it's 4 or 5. I have clients who would be 4 or 5, maybe in a week. Do the actual math when you summarize that. You're not buying $2 Chuck anymore at Trader Joe's. It's like, wow, that might be 150, 200 a month. Or some people, it could be 500. 6,000 a year. And the other narrative about that is that more and more articles, if you Google, it's like, if you Googled it 5 years ago, is it healthy to drink wine? People would be like, yeah, a moderate amount of wine is okay. It's healthy for you, just like coffee. But really, in the last 4.5 years, the narrative is like, you know what? Sorry, everybody. No amount of alcohol is healthy for you. And when I hear that, it's kind of like what smoking was revealed to be 50 years ago. It's like, sorry, everybody. We shouldn't be smoking. We shouldn't be drinking. And I went to a concert last night in DC. Did I get a glass of wine? Yeah, I did. It was great. It was special. But when we do it every night, it's not as special. And now I get to pocket, I don't know, probably close to $1,000 not having to do that every night.
You're so right. The wine, the alcohol, it adds up when you're going grocery shopping. Oh, let me just throw a couple of these into my cart. And then, yeah, we're not drinking $2 Chuck because even if I have one glass of wine, I feel terrible. Then I feel like I got hit by a truck. It's like, and it happened so quickly. I'm like,
Yeah.
how did this happen? Like, I
Mhm.
feel awful. I feel awful. And I'm like, I get to the point where it's just not worth it. It is not worth it to drink, to have it um, because of how terrible I feel, but then also the cost. And if I go out to dinner, drinks now are easily $12,
Mhm.
$13, $15. And then you think about the tip on top of it. So now
Mhm.
your $12 drink is really $15 because you have to tip 20% on top of it. And it's like, and they're so small. And it's like, and then you're going to feel terrible the next day. And it's like, this isn't worth it. Like I'm
Yeah.
paying all of this money to feel terrible. Like that's all. I'm just like hurting myself. But if I do go out to eat, and I don't drink, it's amazing how much less expensive the bill is.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how
Yeah.
much cheaper it is. So I do the same thing. If I go out and it's like, okay, I really want to drink, I'll get one and
Mhm.
that's it. Like
Mhm.
what, just have one and
Yeah.
it lasts and it's perfectly good and it's fine. And I enjoy it even more because it's like I
Yes.
only know I'm having one.
It's
And
special. It's
right.
intentional. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think
Exactly.
intentional shopping is key.
Yeah.
That goes to the other thing that I've started. I have a 4 and a 5-year-old now, and I was in Portland for a conference last week, and I'm at the airport, and there's like I should get them something. I remember when my parents would go on flights, they'd come back. It's like, here's a little toy, here's a treat, here's something from that. And I was going to be like, there's lots of keychains that I could have got my daughter. My daughter went to Disneyland while we got a keychain. And I was like, maybe this is going to sound cruel, but my kids have a lot of things. I feel like their room is full. And we talk about like having to buy a saw and you're like, where do I put it? This is like, I get my kid a Lego. What goes out if I bring Lego in? And so for them, and this is talking to new parents to think about like a responsibility. Like when you have a child, you're like, what am I supposed to do? I want to give them quote unquote everything. I think I have stopped and cut back on sentimental items for myself and for them. And I think that is something that has been easier than I thought it would be because we talked about moving so many times. We moved to Baltimore last year and we packed 8 boxes on a Southwest flight because that's the amount we could take for free on the Southwest flight. And it felt great. But it was also like, oh, what are the things we need to stop keeping? What are we not going to use anymore? What do we really need? And this home is a downsize, which I really love. I wish there was downsize core because there are so many things that we realized we didn't need. So a lot of that is sentimental items we have really cut back on. And I feel okay with that because I'm not saying everything you have to has to have a purchase or a purpose, but definitely when you get on a track of having sentimental items, it becomes a narrative of everything you travel on, every experience has to have an object. But really, I can hold on to the photos, I can hold on to the memories, and the photos are on my computer or on the little digital frame I have. I don't take up any more space because I don't need shot glasses from Portland, Oregon. I don't think my 5-year-old needs that keychain. They didn't go to Portland, you know? So I think that's something we just have to acknowledge. We don't talk about tchotchkes, but that's something that adds up with space as much as money.
I also think with the keychains or, whatever it is, plug whatever thing is for whatever, it sets the precedent,
Yes.
you know? So, okay, well, remember, Daddy, you went to Portland, you got
Mm-hmm.
me a keychain, so you're going to Orlando. What kind of keychain are you going to get me
Yes.
a keychain this time? And it just sets the precedent where then again, like back to the having drinks at dinner, it's not special
Mm-hmm.
anymore. It's just expected.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you went on 5 business trips and didn't bring anything home, and then on the 6th you brought something home, it's that much better.
Yes. Yeah. And kids love rules and precedents. They are looking for precedents to expand their boundaries constantly. As someone who's had a sleep coach for their 4-year-old is something that they're looking for rules and like expectations to be clearer so that they understand their world. And buying them things, either if it's tchotchkes or now every time we go to the grocery store, they are trying to think of like they want a treat. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do a treat. When I grew up, I would always ask for 5 cents, 10 cents, or a quarter for the gumball machines. I'd ask my dad every week we go to the grocery store, probably for 10 years, every week. So that's 5,000 times I asked my father. Guess how many times he gave it to me? Probably 0. I'm the better for it because there's not this expectation for me to like, oh, I need a treat constantly. I need a treat constantly. And that is something my children are trying to say, like, okay, I want this thing. I want this thing. It's like, no, we can't get everything we want. It'd be easier. It would be so much easier if I just gave my kids what they want in that moment. But I know as I once gave my kids food after bedtime, I gave them a banana. It was a stall tactic. Guess how many times they ask for a banana now? For a week, they're asking for a banana. That was a bad idea. So be aware of like the precedents you're setting for other people in your family, but also yourself at the same time.
And we don't think about it when we're doing it, or it's just
Mm-mm.
like, well, survival. Like I really want this.
Yes.
Let me get this for myself. Or it's just easier to, you know, pay this fee, or and it so quickly just becomes habit.
Yeah.
Some things, like I'm super cheap on some things, and it's fine. It is what it is. I mean, I enjoy it. And so like parking, I was going out to eat with my girlfriends the other week, and there was a parking lot in the city right next to the restaurant. And she's like, "Oh, okay, you can park there." And I'm like, and I'm driving, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna go in the garage." So it was like the garage was like a half a block further, and so we go in the garage, and because it's the garage I always park in, and I know it's like $4. It's so inexpensive, and I one time pulled into that same parking lot next to the restaurant, and the parking attendant was like, "Just so you know, this is gonna be like $35 to park
Whoa.
here." Yeah. And he's like, "I don't know if you wanna park here," and he works
He's
for the
even
like,
saying that.
he's like,
He's
"You
on
can
your
go, like,
side.
right there." Yeah. So I knew that. We just go in the park. I'm like, "Yes, that just saved me $30. Like, yay, go me." I mean, the garage was super gross. We saw things we should not have seen in the stairwell, but again, it's like 30 I just saved $30. So as we're leaving and pulling out of the parking, I don't know, I think I may have said it, or like my other friend was like, "Have you ever parked in that lot before?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's like $35." She's like, "I know, that's ridiculous." And it was like we were all in on it together. Like we
Yes.
all knew it was ridiculous to pay that, but it's like, and I'm like, whatever. Like I'm like, I'll never pay that much to park. Like if I know there's a cheaper alternative. And it's like no one's mad that we had to walk a half a block. I mean, it was
Yeah.
barely anything. We laughed about the disgusting things we saw in the stairwell, and it's fine. Like it's all good. Like don't worry about. But it's like if you go, oh yeah, I'll just park there, whatever. It's one time. It sets the precedent of,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to park there next time, or whatever. I'll just pay it. It's fine.
You know what? I'm going to say something really unappealing, maybe, but I think that there's a good, healthy thing to have a little bit of discomfort in your life. And I think that capitalism and money spending objects and parking spots are about comfort. Let's ease let's ease it. Let's ease it. Let's ease it. And if you follow that, it gets very expensive. And guess what? You're always going to be chasing the dragon. You're always going to be running towards it because you will never be at 100% comfort. You will never be there. The wealthiest people are the most uncomfortable people. That's crazy. They're 5, 10, 50, $1 billion. They're not happier. They could, but they're not. So I think that I've strived this year to acknowledge a little bit of discomfort, to say like, it's okay to not do that. Because what it does is it allows me to do more things. It allows me to feel comfort in my bank account. I don't have to be stressed when I talk to my partner about money because I maybe don't have the perfect jacket for this experience, or I do have to walk further, or my ticket's a little bit further. It's very easy in our society to say like, you can pay up. You can pay up to get a little bit easier on that flight. You can pay up to get a little bit easier on that parking spot or this experience or this event going to Disneyland, but it's still not going to be perfect. And that little discomfort allows you to be able to last in the long term. Really.
That's so true. And I agree. And I think about the things that I choose to be like cheaper or more frugal on, and it actually gives me such satisfaction
Mm-hmm.
versus paying the little bit more for the comfort. So it's like and you have to like ask yourself what feels better, being a little bit uncomfortable and knowing you saved money, and you're setting healthy boundaries for yourself and for your money, or the comfort. Like sometimes it is worth paying a little bit more for the comfort, but if you sacrifice in other ways, you can like justify the overspending,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is the sacrificing that is something we don't talk about enough. And it's also like, it's so hard as an individual, I think, to do that too. Like you mentioned your story, you talked to your friend about how terrible that parking cost is, and you laughed about walking through that parking garage. And that is like a bonding experience. And with money, it feels like sometimes we're all on our own and you're like, well, just buy the saw. Well, just get the parking spot. And if you talk about these things, so like my pitch to when we talk about recession core and like saying no to things, talk to your close friend and say, this is what I'm doing. They want to talk about it too. It's so funny. They don't want to just talk about Netflix. They don't want to just talk about work gossip. They do want to talk about money, but we don't have a muscle in this culture to talk about it. But I think this is an easy in to say, here are a few things I'm cutting back on because they live in the same world. They park, they buy saws, they have an Amazon account. They would love to talk about these things with you.